nga tayagala kwenyigira mu bintu eby'essanyu.
He has no history of excessive happiness or increased goal-directed activity.
Nti ate yali talina kiraga nti yali asanyuseeko ekisukkiridde oba okwagala kukola ebintu ebisukkiridde.
He has no history of alcohol or substance use, although he occasionally took alcohol.
N'agamba nti yali talina kiraga nti yali anyonya omwenge oba kulya ebidagala.
He denies any history of hearing voices or seeing things others could not see.
N'ayegana nti yali tawulira oba kulaba ebintu abantu abalala bali tebalaba oba kuwulira.
He has no history of excessive fears or worries and has never had a seizure.
N'agamba nti yali talabeeranga kwawona atya ennyo oba nayeraliikirira ennyo.
He denies any traumatic experiences and sleeps well.
Era yeegera n'okubeera nga waliwo omutabula nnyo mu bwongo n'agamba nti yali yeebaka bulungi.
This is his index visit to a mental health personnel and has never been on any psychiatric medication.
Era n'amugamba nti gwali mulembe gwe gwali gusookera ddala okulaba omusawo w'obwongo era yali talamirangako amakerenda g'okujanjaba obwongo.
He is a known patient of sickle cell disease and regularly takes his medications.
Era bamumanyi nti alina obulwadde bwa myalubiri era abadde ng'amira makerenda.
He has no other chronic medical conditions.
Talina bulwadde bulala.
He is the third born of 4 children.
Ye mwana wokusatu mu maka g'abaana abana.
Both their parents are alive and well.
Abazadde baabwe bombi bwe bali ate bali bulungi.
There is no known mental history in the family.
Era tebamanyiiko muntu yenna alina obulwadde bw'obwongo mu kika ekyo.
That was a psychiatric assessment. The mental status examination revealed the following, still by the same doctor. He is a middle-aged man who appears his age.
Era bwe yayongera okumwekebeza n'agamba yali omusajja eyali akuzeemu ate nga yali alabika emyaka gye.
He is well nourished and kept.
Era yali alabika bulungi.
He is generally calm and keeps eye contact.
Nti yali mukakamu ate ng'asobola kusigala ng'atunula bulungi ng'abantu wamu.
No odd behavior was noted throughout the interview.
Nti ate we yamwekebejjeza yali nga yeeyisa bulungi nga tewali we yali yeeyisa bubi.
His speech is of normal rate, tone and volume, and is generally coherent and fluent.
Nti ate bye yayogera byali bikwatagana bulungi.
His thoughts are logical with no preoccupations over valid ideas or delusions.
Nti ate n'endowooza ye yali ekwatagana bulungi.
He has a euphonic mood congruent with affect and has no perceptual or cognitive disturbance.
Nti era bye yali akola byali bikwatagana n'embeera ze.
He concluded his diagnosis as follows. Onyum Christopher Okello has no established mental disorder, and therefore affirm that Onyum Christopher Okello is sane and mentally fit to live and work in Uganda.
Era n'amala n'agamba nti Christopher Okello Onyum talina bulwadde bwa bwongo si mulalu ate ng'asobola kubeera oba kukolera mu Uganda.
The prosecution also adduced the evidence of Dr. Nwamanya Emmanuel. That one is a police surgeon. He also did a mental examination on him on the 7th of April. This was now after the commission of this offense, 5 days after. And these were his findings. He had normal behavior, calm, cooperative, speech was coherent, his memory intact, and exhibited good judgment.
Baleeta obujulizi olw'omusawo gwe bamukebera obwongo ennaku z'omwezi 7 ogwokuna 2026 omusango guno gumaze okubaawo ennaku 5 n'agamba nti yali ategeera bulungi nga mukakamu ng'akwatagana naye bulungi ng'ayogera bulungi ate ng'asobola okumanya ekituufu n'ekitali kituufu.
His thought process and content was normal, but he believed in wealth by human sacrifice.
N'agamba nti alowooza bulungi naye nga yali akkiririza mu ssaddaaka.
He was able to explain the reasons for killing the children as fortune hunting or enrichment.
Nti yamugamba nti ensonga lwaki yatta abaana yali ayagala kufuna bya bugagga.
He got the idea on recalling childhood folk tales of getting wealth by sacrificing people.
Era ekyo yakijja ku ngero z'eyawuliranga ng'akyali muto ez'okusaddaaka abantu okufuna ebyobugagga.
The accused person in his testimony stated that from January to March 2026, he underwent distress and encountered people who influenced his actions of 2nd April 2026.
Omwawulira yagamba nti wakati wa Januari n'Ogwokusatu 2026 yali munnyamivu olw'ensonga y'abantu beesinkananga ate ng'agamba be bavunaanyizibwako bye yakola nga 2 Ogwokuna 2026.
I find this move by the accused person very calculated because he smartly targets a period immediately after his sanity and mental examination done on 30th December at IHK at his own request and instance.
N'agamba nti kirabika bino omuwangulwa yabigala kubanga yalaba ekiseera ng'amaze okugenda okumukebera obwongo mu mwezi gwa Desemba 2025.
Now I'm saying that the accused person is smart. He brings the period after the examination, so that we don't know what happened after the 30th of December.
Yali mugezi nnyo era n'akibala n'agenda n'akola bino nga
he intelligently and smartly supposes that his distress happened after that examination, which would mean therefore that the distress after 30th December is the reason for his actions of 2nd April 2026.
Yali mugezi nnyo n'aleeta ensonga y'okugamba nti yali munnyamivu wakati wa Januari n'Ogwokusatu 2026 nga bamaze okumukebera 3 Ogwekumi 2025 n'agamba nti ebyo bye byamuviirako bye yakola nga 2 Ogwokuna 2026.
He also smartly and intelligently brings this period of his distress to fall before his next psychiatric and mental examination that was done on 7th April 2026 by Dr. Nwamanya Emmanuel on Police Form 24.
Era yaleeta ekiseera kino kye yali munnyamivu nga ebbanga lye yayogera yali nga tannatuusa we bamukeberera nga 7 Ogwokuna 2026.
In light of the above smart move by the accused person, this court will proceed to examine and assess his conduct and lifestyle between January and 2nd April 2026 when he committed the offense to determine whether or not he was mentally functional.
Olw'ensonga nti yakola ebintu bino mu ngeri y'amagezi kkooti egenda kutunuulira engeri gyeyeyisaamu wakati wa Januari ne 2 Ogwokuna 2026 okulaba oba omutwe gwe gwali kukola bulungi.
Prosecution adduced the evidence of Mr. Paul Mukasa Paul. He was PW9 and he was the landlord of the accused person in Bunga for a period between November 2025 and March 2026. And he testified that while he was renting his house, the accused person was a very good person, relating well with others, and that he did not notice anything odd or irregular with his conduct.
Oludde oluwanvu lwaleeta omujulizi gwe bayita Mukasa Paul eyali landlord y'omuwangirwa ebbunga n'agamba nti yali landlord kuva nga Ogwokumi 2025 okutuusa nga Ogwokusatu 2026 n'agamba nti yabeera ku nnyumba ye yali muntu mulungi yayisa bulungi ate ng'akwatagana bulungi ne bamwiraana.
According to the evidence of Makai Joel, now that's the landlord of of Chanja, where the accused person was staying at the time of this offense, the person approached him for a house to rent. The accused person approached him for a house to rent on 16th March 2026, and he came with a broker.
Era waliwo omujulizi Makaijo ono yayongeddwa ekyanja era nga yagendayo ne bbulooka eyiwe ng'anoonya ennyumba nga 16/2/2026.
The accused entered into a transaction with him to rent a house for 4 months. He was informed that the monthly house rent was 400,000 and he was supposed to pay 4 months upfront. And the accused was further informed that payment was supposed to be made in the bank. The accused then requested for the bank account details, after which he went and paid in the bank and returned a bank slip to the witness.
Nti era bwe yatuukayo ng'anoonya ennyumba n'akkiriza n'awandiika endagaano n'agamba nti apangisiza emyezi ena ne bamugamba nti buli mwezi ajja kusasula $40,000 ne bamugamba nti ezo ssente alina zisasula mu banka n'abasaba banka akawunti ebikwata ku banka ne bazimuwa n'agenda mu banka n'asasula ssente n'aleeta n'akapapula ke yasasuliddeko.
From this evidence, this court finds that at this point the accused person was in very good health, mentally functional, and in control of his actions. Otherwise, how would he even know that he needed a broker to get a house, or how would he know how to make payments in the bank?
Kkooti egamba nti akaseera ako yali bulungi nga n'omutwe gwe gutegeera bulungi kubanga yategeera nti yali yeetaaga bbulooka okufuna ennyumba n'ategeera nti alina okugenda ne mu banka okusasula ssente.
The prosecution also adduced the evidence of Hashim Juma, the director of Trip Car Rental Uganda for Self-Drive, who testified that the accused person first contacted his company via the business WhatsApp number on the 12th of March 2026, and he was inquiring about their car hire services.
Era baleeta omujulizi gwe bayita Juma Hashim Juma nga yali wa Trip Car Rental nga ono yabatuukirira ku WhatsApp n'abasaba emmotoka ng'agenda kugyevugira era yabatuukirira nga 12/3/2026.
The accused was using an American number and he told the witness that he needed the car the next day. The next day the accused called the witness and told him he was already at the meeting location, but because he had not confirmed, the witness, that is Juma, was not there. He had not reached, and when he reached, he found when the accused person had already left. This was at the Freedom City Mall.
Nti yali akozesa enamba ya Amerika era n'amugamba nti yali yeetaaga emmotoka olunaku oluddako era enkeera yatuukako Juma yali tanatuukawo era omuwalirwa ye n'avaawo n'agenda ate awo waali ku Freedom City.
Okay, then the accused contacted the witness again on 14th March and said that he had left because he was rushing somewhere and couldn't wait, but he would rent the car the following week.
Era omuwalirwa yaddamu n'amugamba nga 14/3/2026 n'amugamba nti yali amuleseewo alina gye yali agenda n'amugamba nti ayagala emmotoka ayagala gikozesa wiiki eddako.
I am giving all this detail because I am trying to show the conduct or the actions of the accused person during the period he says he was in distress.
Kusoma byonna byonna musobole okutegeera ebyo yali akola mu kiseera kye yali agamba nti yali mwenyamivu.
The accused person contacted the witness again on the 31st of March through a WhatsApp and told him that he needed to rent the car again for 2 days, that is 1st April and 2nd April 2026.
Era nga 3/3/2026 yaddamu n'amusindikira WhatsApp n'amugamba nti yali ayagala kukozesa emmotoka kumala ennaku 2 n'alemu
The witness then offered to deliver him the car, that evening of 31st March, which the accused was agreeable to. The witness then requested for directions to the location and he was informed that it was in Chanja. The witness further asked for a Google PIN, which the accused person provided, and following the Google PIN, the witness was led directly to the house where the accused was staying in Chanja.
Era omujulizi yamugamba nti asobola kumutwalira motoka, omuwawalira n'akkiriza n'amugamba nti agimuleetera ekyanja. Ono kwe kumusaba piini oba ekimundaga gy'ali, era bwe yagimusindikira n'emutwala n'emutuusa ku nnyumba gye yali.
The accused person received the vehicle and also gave the witness his American passport and American driving license for his identification. The witness took photographs of them and handed them back to the accused person. And the accused asked for the mode of payment. He was told that he could pay with mobile money, and he transferred 388,000 shillings for car hire for 2 days on self-drive.
Nti era emmotoka yagifuna n'amuwa passport ne pamiti, omujulizi n'ebikuba ebifaananyi n'abimuddiza era n'amubuuza oba asobola kusasuza mobile money, era n'akkiriza n'amusindikira emitwalo 38,800.
The witness further testified that during his interaction with the accused person, both online and physically, the accused did not present any abnormal behavior. According to him, a person of unsound mind would not have transacted with him the way he did. That the accused person, if he was of unsound mind, he would not have been able to transact online, use mobile money, would not have been given a driver's license, among others.
N'agamba nti akaseera ke bayegerezaganya wamu yali talaba emiyiisa yonna etali ya bulijjo. N'agamba singa yali tategeera bulungi, yali tasobola kukozesa mobile money, yali tasobola kubatuukirira nga basaba motoka.
He also testified that later in that night, the accused person called him asking for the car keys because he had forgotten to give them to him when he delivered the motor vehicle earlier in the evening. The witness then told him that he would send the keys with a border rider, and as early as 7 a.m. on 1st, the border had delivered the keys. He was even able to direct the border to where his home was in Chanja.
Era oluvannyuma ekiro yamukulira kumubuuza waegye yali atadde ebisumuluzo kubanga oli yali yeerabidde ebisumuluzo, n'amugamba nti agenda kumusindikira wa boda ku makya, era essaawa emu ez'okumakya ebisumuluzo yali babireese nga yamukubira n'amulagirira wa gye yali.
On 1st April 2026 at around 11, the witness testified that the accused called him and told him that the car had mechanical issues, and when he asked his location, he told him he was in Bunga and he sent a mechanic to fix the car.
Nga Ogwokuna 2026 ssaawa 5 nti omuwawalira yamukubira ng'amugamba nti emmotoka yali efunye obuzibu, n'amubuuza wa gye yali, n'amugamba nti yali Bunga, kwe kumusindikira makanika.
And after about 1.5 hours, the accused person again called the witness and told him that he was at Jinja Road roundabout, but informed him that the car had failed again.
Era oluvannyuma lw'essaawa emu n'ekitundu yaddamu n'amukubira n'agamba nti yali ku roundabout ya Jinja Road ate ng'emmotoka yali ezzeemu okufuna obuzibu.
The witness then advised him to drive it to Shell Jinja Road and park the car there, which the accused person did.
Era n'amugamba nti emmotoka agivuga alitwale ku Shell ku Jinja Road, n'agivuga n'agitwalayo.
I examined the WhatsApp communication between the accused person and the witness regarding the hiring of the motor vehicle, which was extracted and incorporated in the digital forensic examination report. And I have found that the conversation between the accused person and the witness regarding the car hire was very accurate and coherent.
Obutiibwe mulamuzi atunudde bye bayogerako nga bali ku WhatsApp ebikwataganya ku kupangisa emmotoka, ate nga babiwandiika mu alipoota gye baleeta mu kooti, n'akakasa nti kusinziira ebyo baali boogera omuwawalirwa nti yali yayogera bulungi nga bye yali ayogerako byali bikwatagana.
The accused person clearly knew what he wanted, clearly directed the witness to his home at Namgera Close in Chanja, and even went ahead to give more details that where he resided, of where he resided, that it was the first gate on the left side, and that he had told the custodian to wait for him because it was raining.
Nti yali amanyi nti yali yeetaaga kubanga yamugamba nti yali abeera Kyanja era n'amunnyonnyola bulungi gye yali abeera n'agamba nti yali geeti esooka ku mukono gwa kkono n'amugamba nti yali ataddeko omuntu akumulinda.
In addition to that, the accused person provided a Google pin to his location.
Nti ate okwongereza ku kyo yamuwa ne pin eraga wa gye yali.
The accused person was actually in total control of his actions and was very mentally functional, because his communication was not only coherent but also systematic and logical, and had a very good sense of judgment, which negates his claim of being under immense distress during this period that prevented him from understanding the nature and quality of his actions on the 2nd of April 2026.
N'agamba nti byonna bye yakola byali bikwatagana nekiraga nti yali talina bulwadde bwa bwongo nga bwe yagamba nti yali mu kwenyamira mu biseera ebyo ate nga kikyamuviirako okukola bye yakola nga 2/4/2026.
So this is the evidence of Odongo Emmanuel. This is the CCTV analyst whose evidence reveals the movement of the motor vehicle RAV4 from Kyanja on the day on 1st of April, and it stopped through Nakawa and Kabalagala Kansanga until it parked at Renewal Circle.
Nti era baleeta obujulizi obwa Odongo Emmanuel oneyeeta obujulizi bwa kamera n'agamba ng'alaga emmotoka ekika kya RAV4 bwe yatambula okuva Kyanja nga lumu gwokuna 2026 n'ekira Nakawa n'egenda Kabalagala n'egenda Kansanga paka bwe yatuuka ku Renewal Circle.
At Renewal Circle, the accused person was captured by a private camera of the said circle as he parked the vehicle. He found other vehicles already parked in the yard, and he maneuvered and found a suitable parking slot for his vehicle. As the accused moved out of the car, he checked the door to confirm that he had locked it. Upon his return, the accused checked the left front tire of the motor vehicle.
Nti ku Renewal Circle kamera zaamukwata nga apaakingawo emmotoka ye, yatuuka n'asanga nga waliwo emmotoka endala nnyingi ezaali zipaakinze, naye n'agezaako n'afuna ekifo ky'okupaakingamu emmotoka ye eyapaakinga n'akebera obuggya okulaba oba yali alusibye, era bwe yavaamu n'ateera n'omupiira ogwa kkono ogw'omu maaso.
Is this conduct of a person who is suffering from a disease of the mind to prevent him from understanding the nature and quality of his actions and therefore unable to control them?
Kino kyekikolwa omuntu alina obulwadde bw'obwongo kyasobola okukola ng'agamba nti obwongo bwe tebukola bulungi ate nga bye yali akola yali tasobola kubitegeera.
I answer this question in the negative and make a finding that the accused person was in full control of his actions and with proper sense of judgment.
Era okitiibwa omulamuzi n'agamba nti mu butuufu omuwayirwa yali asobola kutegeera biki bye yali akola ng'asobola kwawula ekituufu n'ekikyamu.
And the prosecution also adduced evidence of his leaving Renewal Circle up to the point at Shell where he parked the car because it had a mechanical problem.
Era baleeta obujulizi obulaga engeri yava ku Renewal Circle n'avugira ddala n'atuuka ku Shell gye yali apaakinze emmotoka olw'okuba nti yali afunye obuzibu.
The accused person was seen pushing the vehicle being assisted by the staff of Shell.
Era baamulaba ng'asindika emmotoka ng'abakozi ba Shell bamuyambako.
And also making phone calls.
Era ng'akuba masimu.
And the PW8, the owner of the car, the one who had hired the car to him, confirms that while at Shell they talked on phone.
Era eyali amuwadde emmotoka yakakasa nti bwe yali ku Shell bayogera ku ssimu.
So my conclusion on that is that he was in control of whatsoever he was doing, and he had a good sense of judgment since he could even tell that the car has a mechanical problem and knew who to call to solve it.
Nti n'olwekyo oti omulamuzi agamba nti yali ategeera bulungi ng'asobola kutegeera biki bye yali akola.
I also now go to the events at the gate of the center, that is the scene of crime, of 1st April 2026, when the accused went and stood at the gate and had a conversation with PW6, that is Phoebe Namuteri.
Era agenda kwogera ku byaliwo ku geeti nga Lumu ogw'okuna 2026 omwawaaliba bwe yagenda ku geeti n'ayogera ne Phoebe.
PW6 testified to the conversation that she had with the accused person regarding the enrollment of his child.
Phoebe yajja n'agamba nti bayogera nga boogera ku ky'okukwatagana n'okuleeta omwana kuwandiisa omwana mu ssomero eryo.
Yes, he said he had a child who was 3 years, and when he was told that they don't take 3 years, he should take to the nursery section, he said he had tried, but he had been advised to take his child to a place where there are other children because she was not so sure and she would learn with the many children.
Nti era yagamba nti omwana yali agenda kuwandiisa yali wa myaka 3, bamugamba nti bwe bawandiika bwa myaka 3 ne bamuwabula nti omwana mutwale mu bannasale. Bagamba nti yali agezezaako kumutwala mu bannasale ne bamugamba nti amutwale awantu awali abaana bangi olw'ensonga nti yali takwatagana bulungi n'abantu abalala ng'asobola kukwatagana bulungi n'abantu nga azadde n'abaana abalala.
He went ahead to propose to Phoebe that when he is allowed to enroll the child, Phoebe should monitor the child for him, and when she picks up, then he can take her to a nursery section.
Era yagamba Phoebe nti bw'aba aleese omwana asigale nga mumulabirako amulaba nti bw'amala okubeera nga asobola kukwatagana n'abantu abalala amutwale mu nursery.
We then asked Phoebe what was required to enroll this child, and Phoebe told him all the requirements, and he promised to return the next day to make payments.
Era yabuuza ebyali byetaagisa okuwandiisa omwana. Phoebe n'abimugamba n'agamba nti agenda kukomawo enkeera okusasula.
On the next day, which is the date of the incident, the 2nd of April 2026, the accused person returned to the gate of the center.
Nga 2/2026 bino byatuukako ku olwo omwawaayirwa yakomawo ku geeti y'essomero eryo.
And when Phoebe saw him, she went to him and he told her that he had come to make payments so that his child could be enrolled at the center.
Phoebe bwe yamulaba n'agenda ku geeti, bwe yatuukawo omuwabula n'amugamba nti yali aze kusasulira omwana atandike.
Phoebe then took him and introduced him to Miss Annette, PW7, and they also engaged in a deep conversation regarding the child.
Phoebe yamutwala n'amwanjulira Annette, era bwe yatuukayo era ne basigala ne boogera yabikwata ku mwana oyo.
The detail of the conversation is in the judgment, but it shows a coherent person who was in control of his actions and his speech and did not present any odd behavior to Miss Phoebe and Miss Annette.
Bwebayogerako ebisinga babawandiise mu nsala y'emisango naye nti bwe bayogera wamu yali yeeyisa bulungi ate nga bye yali ayogera byali bikwatagana bwe yali ayogera ne Annette ne Phoebe.
And when he asked for the requirements and he was told 120 for daycare fees, 60 for uniform and 10,000 for registration, he mentally calculated that before Miss Annette could use a calculator.
era bwe bamugamba ebyabyetaagisa nga bamugamba emitwalo 12 za ddeke, emitwalo 6 gya yunifoomu, omutwalo gwa kuwandiisa mwana yabibalirawo mu mutwe gwe n'abagamba nti gyali emitwalo 19.
It is shortly after that interaction, a very normal, coherent interaction, that when he moved out, he launched this brutal and fatal attack on the defenseless, innocent children.
Bali baakamala okwogera bulungi n'abakyala abo n'amala n'afuluma n'atuuka mu baana n'atandika okubakirimbula.
It is the finding of this court that at the time of the attack, the accused person did not suffer from any disease of the mind. He was in full control of his actions.
Era kooti esanze nti akaseera ako we yattira abaana abo yali amanyi kye yali akola.
And Miss Phoebe, the PW6, testified that this event, the act of slaughtering these children, took about 7 minutes, and I can believe her because looking at the time when he sent the money on Miss Annette's phone to the time when he made a phone call, an emergency helpline of police, is a very short time. It is actually 14 minutes. So it is not possible that at the time of cutting the children is when he lost his control due to any disease of mind.
N'agamba nti Phoebe yagamba nti ebintu byonna bino byatwala eddakiika 7 ate kooti emukkiriza kubanga etunuulidde mu kaseera ke yasindikiramu ssente ku ssimu ya Annette n'akaseera kwe yakubira poliisi kyatwala eddakiika 14 era kooti egamba nti tayinza okubanga yakoma okutegeera okugamba nti abaana bano yabasala nga tategeera.
Of course, I have taken note of the arguments for counsel for the accused person, that the center management was criminally negligent because they had no guard at the gate and they left the children unattended to, which led to their death. But I find this argument quite insensitive because the children were in their familiar space and it was never expected that someone would enter the center premises disguising himself as a potential parent only to do what the accused did to the innocent children.
Lawyer Omwadwa yagamba nti essomero lyali ddagajjavu olw'ensonga nti baali tebalina mukuumi nga baana tebalina muntu eyali kino ate baali tebasuubira nti omuntu ayinza okujja ng'omuzadde ate n'akosa abaana.
Besides, during this fatal attack on the innocent children, PW6 and PW7, that's Miss Phoebe and Miss Annette, they testified that when they saw him cutting the children and came to intervene, he threatened to cut them as well. And then, when he saw himself in danger of the crowd that was angry, he had the mental ability now to call police for rescue.
Nti okujjako ekyo omujulizi w'omukaaga Phoebe ne Annette omujulizi w'omusanvu bwe bamulaba ng'asala abaana bamulaba ng'asala abaana ne bagenzaako okutaasa abaana era n'ayagala nabo okubatiisatiisa nti agenda kubasala ate bwe yalaba nti abantu abali bazze bali bagenda mutuusaako obulabe ate n'afuna amagezi agakubira poliisi.
I also take note of his preliminary interview with ASP Esserite James, where he informed the witness that he was staying in Chanja and that he had bought knives and he had the mental ability to take the search team to his home, moreover rented premises where he had been for less than 2 weeks, but he could locate that home And indeed, during the search, the knives were found, new knives, and they were admitted as exhibits.
Nti era nga bakamukwata yayogerako n'omupoliisi bayita Esabite James n'amugambirawo nti yali abeera akyanja era n'amugamba nti yali aguze obwambe era ye kennyini n'atwalayo abaali banoonyereza omusango n'abatuusayo wadde yali akabeerayo weeks 2 bwe baamala okwaza ennyumba era ne basangayo bwambe nga bupya.
I have also found it necessary to, in this judgment, examine the lifestyle and or actions of the accused person before this offense to establish whether he was mentally functional or not. And I looked at the bank accounts. The accused person had 3 bank accounts, $2 accounts, and 1 shillings account, Uganda shillings account. And I have analyzed the bank account statements, and I find that he was transacting normally on these accounts.
Era okiiko omulamuzi alabye enneeyisa y'omuwaabira nga bino tebinabeerawo n'asanga nga yali alina akawunti mu banka, yalina akawunti 3 mu banka nga akawunti 2 zaali za dola ne akawunti emu ng'ateekako simu za Uganda n'alaba nti yali akwasaganya banka zino ng'omuntu wa bulijjo.
Is able to transact from wallet to account, from account to wallet, is buying, is paying, withdrawing money for paying rent. They actually also withdrew money for hiring farmland. And during the search, there was an agreement for a lease, a hire of land in Maya for farming. This accused person, who wants this court to believe that he was mentally ill, is making investment decisions.
Nti ku banka ezo yali asobola kujja ssente ku akawunti n'ateeka ku simu, n'ajja ku simu n'ateeka ku akawunti n'ajjayo ssente, era yajjayo ssente ez'okupangisa ennyumba, ez'okupangisa ettaka lye yali agenda kulimirako ennajja, era nti bwe yazza ennyumba ye baasangayo endagaano y'okupangisa ettaka mu nnajja, era nga omuntu omu agamba nti kuteekerize nti yali tategeera bulungi so ng'ate yali asiga nsimbi.
The prosecution also provided evidence of Google searches that the accused person conducted on his phone, and I have found them relevant to this case.
Era baleeta obujulizi obulaga nti yakebera ku Google ng'akozesa essimu ye ate kkooti esanze nga bikwatagana n'omusango guno.
PW18 led evidence the effect to the fact that the accused devices, the laptops and phones, indicated that the accused had made searches about schools near me.
Omujulizi ono w'okunnamnaana yagamba nti bwe baakebera amasimu ge n'ezi laptop gyalaga nti yali anoonyerezaako ku masomero agaali kumpi naye.
And among the schools that he searched among the places that he searched is Church Close Ggaba.
Ate mu bifo bye yanoonyerezaako mwalimu Church Close Ggaba.
And the center where this unfortunate event happened is on Church Close Ggaba.
Ate essomero lino bino we byatuuka biri mu Church Close Ggaba.
Other items such were rental hours of operation Trip Car Rental Uganda, and we have evidence of him hiring a car from Trip Car Rental on self-drive the day prior to this unfortunate incident.
Era yanoonyereza ku Trip Car Rental nga bano beyafunako emmotoka n'agipangisa ng'agenda kugyevugira era gye yakozesa.
He's also searching how many kilometers does 14 liters get on a RAV4. He's searching about the Bunga police station. He's searching about ISIS beheading. And he's also searching about firearm license in Uganda.
era yamenyereza ng'abuuza leta 14 mu banfuuzi mutwala kutuuka wa, nanoonyereza ku poliisi y'ebbunga, nanoonyereza ku ICCD ekitongole kitemako emitwe gy'abantu, nanoonyereza omuntu afuna atya layisensi y'emmundu mu Uganda.
Okay, and I have also noted that the accused person denied having conducted these searches in preparation for this crime, but I reject his claim because whereas the way he hacked or he slaughtered these children is how I take judicial notice that ISIS is Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. It is a widely recognized by international governments and organizations as a major terrorist organization and is known for committing atrocities including genocide, public beheadings, and conducting targeted violent attacks. I have no doubt in my mind that the search for ISIS beheadings prepared the accused person to launch this fatal attack on the defenseless children. As already observed and clearly stated by PW6, the attack that led to the death of the 4 infants took less than 7 minutes. It is only a person with specialized training in beheading and the heart and mind of a terrorist that will do what the accused person did. It is my further finding that this very specialized training and meticulous planning and premeditation strongly negates any claims of insanity.
Ntomwalina yagamba nti bino okubinoonyerezaako yali teekateekera okuva emisango gino, naye kkooti n'eraba nti yanoonyereza ku ICC ate nga kino kyekitongole kisinga ekyabayeekera nga bakola ebintu bingi, batta abantu, basenjaga mu lujjudde, n'agamba nti bino biyinza okuba nga byemuleetera okulonda abaana bano abato n'abatta. Ate omugenzi w'omukaaga yagamba nti bino ebintu byonna byaliwo mu ddakiika nga 7, ekitegeeza omuntu yakola ekintu kino yali mutendeke bulungi okukola ekintu kino, ate omukupulaninga kino kiraga nti omutwe gwe gwali gukola bulungi.
I have labored to analyze all the above evidence to rule out any claims by the accused person or any other person that may believe his claim of insanity as his defense to run away from accounting for this heinous crime.
Ekitiibwa omulamuzi agezezaako nnyo okulaba nti alaba obujulizi, ate ne kiraga nti omuwabirwa yali talina bulwadde bw'obwongo, ekitegeeza nti yaleeta ekyogamba nti obulwadde bw'obwongo
interpret that well. I have labored to analyze all the above evidence to rule out any claims by the accused person or any other person that may believe his claim of insanity as his defense to run away from accounting for this heinous crime.
Nti ekitiibwa afubye nnyo okulaba nti alaba obujulizi bwaleetebwa okulaba nti omuwabirwa yali talina bulwadde bw'obwongo, ate teri muntu asobola kugamba nti yali alina obulwadde bw'obwongo. Oba omuntu yenna okulowooza nti alina obulwadde bw'obwongo ng'agezako okudduka obuvunaanyizibwa bw'ekintu kino ekyatuukawo.
Having done that, I conclusively find that the accused person was very sane on 2nd April 2026 when he gruesomely slaughtered 4 innocent souls.
Nti ekitiibwa omulamuzi agamba nti nga 2 Ogwokuna 2026 omuwabirwa yali ategeera bulungi okutta abaana bano bato be yatta.
Therefore, no defense of insanity, no diminished responsibility is available to him.
N'olwekyo ekyokugamba nti omutwe gwe gwali tegukola bulungi oba yalina obulwadde bw'obwongo tebimuyamba.
On the contrary, contrary, I find and in agreement with the joint opinion of the three assessors that the prosecution has proved that the accused person unlawfully caused the death of the three infants with malice aforethought.
N'olwekyo akayinza ne ba assesa nga be bamuwabula nga bagamba nti ab'oludda lwali baleeta obujulizi obumala okulaga nti omuwawaabirwa nga alina ekigendererwa ate nga mu bumenyi bw'amateeka yatta bano abaana abana.
Consequently, this court finds that the prosecution has proved all the ingredients of the offense of murder in the 4 counts against the accused person, Christopher Okello Onyum.
Kooti n'ekakasa nti oludda lwali luleese obujulizi obumala okulaga nti emisango ena gyonna gye bavunaana Okello Christopher Onyum.
The accused person is accordingly found guilty of the murder of Eteku on count 1.
N'olwekyo kooti esanze ng'omusango ogw'okutta Eteku Gideon gumusinga.
Keisha Agenoroth in count 2.
Omusango gw'okutta Keisha Agenoroth nagwo gumusinga.
Seryange Ignatius in count 3.
Ogw'okutta Seryange Ignatius nagwo gumusinga.
And Odeke Ryan in count 4.
N'ogw'okutta Odeke Ryan nagwo gumusinga.
Agreement with the joint opinion of the assessors.
Akkiriza n'empabula y'aba assessor.
I hereby convict Christopher Okello Onyum of the offense of murder.
Asiisizza Christopher Okello Onyum omusango gw'obutemu.
Contrary to sections 171 and 172 of the Penal Code Act Cap 128 in count 1 for the murder of Eteku Gideon.
Era musiisizza omusango gw'obutemu nga kiri mu kitabo ky'abonerezo kawanyiro 171 ne 172 olw'okutta Eteku Gideon.
Count 2 for the murder of Keisha Agenoroth Oti.
Ne Keisha Agenoroth Oti
in count 2.
Omusango gw'okubiri.
Count 3 for the murder of Seryange Ignatius.
N'omusango gw'okusatu ogw'okutta Seryange Ignatius.
And count 4 for the murder of Odeke Ryan as indicted.
N'omusango gw'okuna ogw'okutta Odeke Ryan nga bwe bamuteekako emisango egyo.
Could we take a break? It's a healthy break. Let's come back at 3 for the sentencing hearing. 3 o'clock sentencing hearing.
Kumaala kusaawa 9 okwekibonerezo.
okukola musango guno byali biraga bulungi nti omuntu yali mu mbeera nnungi. Tukomawo ku ssaawa 9 yesu omulamuzi agwa ekibonerezo naye nga tunaba kugenda eyo yonna tufunyeko wana abamu abadde bagobererwa abadde agoberera omusango guno okulaba engeri gye gutambula katuwulire ebirowoozo bye kikyayogera ku nsala y'omulamuzi gyasaze nnyabo nkulamusizera ku STATV
nkulamusiza amanya gange nze Rema Namagende. Ensala y'omusango guno simbi okuva ku ntandikwa omulamuzi tujire tumugoberera bulungi okuva ku ntandikwa yonna ebintu bibadde bitambula bulungi naye tufunye essanyu kuba ensala y'omusango guno etwongedde amaanyi. Omusango gwonna Okero bagumusingisizza ng'ate ekintu kituufu. Okero yatuttira abaana baffe abaana abato abatalina musango singa ali muntu mukulu twandigambye nti bafunyemu obutakkaanya naye omulamuzi waffe akoze ekintu okuva ku ntandikwa abadde n'okusoomoozebwa tubadde banyiivu paka bwe kikomekereza wabula tugenda kudda oluvannyuma tuwulire gye kigenda okuggwera.
Tumanyi mulamuzi kibonerezo kyayinza kuwa mukulu Okero nga mmwe mugamba yani muwadde kibonerezo ki?
Ngaffe okusinziira ku bulumi nti baali baana bato nga teboogera okitegeera nti banja lya mwengeze ngamba lyandiwedde n'omwenge. Okero naye ndowooza ekibonerezo kye tumwagaza abantu b'ekyalo naffe abalina abaana okuba nti tuli mu bulumi bw'abaana baffe naye attibwe kuba yali ayagala abaana mangi amasomero mangi okitegeera naye attibwe tutegeere nti Okero attibwa tufune essanyu kuba naye banaamusiba mulambo gwe tetujja kutegeera nti Okero yafa oba gyali pozi nga baguleese batugaa nti Okero wuuno naye tekikkirizibwa Okero bamutte banja lya mwenge liggwa na mwenge naye omulamuzi tumwebazizza nnyo kati tukomawo
yeso mu STATV kankutwaleko mu bantu abalala kubanga buli muntu ayina endowooza ye ku ngeri omusango guno Christopher Okero gy'abadde avunaanibwamu era n'engeri omulamuzi gyasazeemu omusango guno era ng'ensonga gye yeesimbyeko y'okwefumiitiriza agamba mukulu Okero Christopher yeefumiitiriza nnyo ku nsonga y'okubeera nga azza omusango guno. Tufunye wano omwami omu ku bantu era abadde bawuliriza omusango guno ssebo gyebaleka amannya go era oviridde mu kitundu ki?
Amanya gange Jime Kamya nd'omu ku bakulembeze b'ekitundu kino LC1. Ndi musanyufu nnyo okusinziira ku musango gugwadde gujja gugobereddwa ebbanga ddene tutudde wano ebbanga ddene kumpi nnaku 10 tuli wano buli lunaku tujja naye ndi musanyufu nnyo olw'okubanga omulamuzi asinzizza Okero omusango ogw'okutta abaana abana.
Obujulizi olowooza abwekennenyezza
bulungi nnyo badde very open nnyo ng'agamba nti omusajja alaba omusajja ategeera taliko bulalu omusajja musinza omusango tulinda kye bagenda ku nsala kyovala abantu bano bonna bakubye ekkerere abantu basanyufu kuba tulinda nsala tulinda ensala maze omusajja gumusinze tulinda kyagenda musalira.
Kibonerezo ki ky'oyinza okwagala omulamuzi awe mukulu Okero?
Well and good lwakubanga ndi mulokole ekyo saali kyagadde naye ndowooza asiba obulamu bwe bwonna.
Obulamu bwe bwonna ng'ali emmere ya gavumenti ate gye tusasulira omusolo.
Anti okutta si kya Bwakatonda nze sagala kyogera ekyokutta si kya Bwakatonda agenda asibwe ave mu community ave mu bantu asibwe obulamu bwe bwonna.
Tweyanze omulabi wa STATV ne UBC tugoberere nga tugenda okufuna endowooza z'abantu abalala ku ngeri gye bayogera ku musango gwa Okero Christopher engeri omulamuzi Alisco Muhanji Kawuka gyasazeemu omusango guno era nga katufune ku bantu abalala abali mu kifo kino katufune omukyalo ono atudde wano naye atubuulire ensonga ze ye omusango agulabye atya era kikyasuubira. Nnyabo nsanyusa okulaba.
Kale nnyabo Bampita Florence Mwebe nga ndi assistant RCC Makindi. Omulamuzi tanaba kutuwa faino naye engeri ebintu gye bitambulamu ye process court gyetambulamu lwakuba abantu abamu tebaagala omulamuzi tebaagala okukolebwa naye nze n'abantu omulamuzi ali mutuyisa mu danomo process eya kooti. Obwenkanya we buli kubanga we baatuukira okujja ku ground nti n'omuntu asobola funa transport egenda mu kooti abeerewo awulirize. For the first time bangi tebabeeranga nko mu high court naye eri nejja ku kyalo so obwo bwenkanya okitegedde.
Tweyanzege waliwo wano mwami omulala ssebo tukulamusizza.
English or?
Okay, in English.
In English.
Yes, yeah, we are from UBC TV and STATV.
Yes.
What is your comment?
My comment, first of all, I'm called Isiko Jeremiah Henry. My comment is that I'm happy on behalf of the rest of the world for that now we have won the conviction. We are only waiting for the sentence. But I would like to thank the judiciary, especially the trial judge. She has done her best. The prosecution has produced all the evidence to prove the ingredients of murder. But my opinion is one. I don't believe in killing someone who has killed somebody, because someone who if you kill someone for murdering a person is not going to suffer. A dead person cannot suffer. My opinion is that he be sentenced to life in prison. Let him, the rest of his life, if maybe he's going to live for how long we don't know, let him spend in prison.
You want him to be sentenced to life imprisonment as he's eating our taxpayers' money. Is that being fair?
Yes, it is quite fair, because he is going to live as an example. Even himself, he is going to live to regret. If others, the fellow prisoners shall be looking at him, that he shall never see, he shall never interact with any community until he will meet his death.
In regards to the mental capacity, as the judge has said, illness, what is your take on that? Has he analyzed very well the evidence which was put on record?
Yes, the judge has been very fair, and the prosecution was very fair. There is no evidence that this man is mad. You cannot be mad and you behave in such a way that is it proves that you are sound. So he was trying to hide in the madness to dodge in justice. There is no ingredient to support that he is really mad. Okay, maybe if he has ever been mad, but by the time he committed that offense, he was no more.
What is your take of bringing the court to the audience, to the public, not like the other court sessions which have been held in buildings and sort of?
It has been the best procedure, bringing the court close to the people, because many people who have attended this court, they could have not afforded to move to where the court would have been, and even the courtrooms are so squeezed that it cannot accommodate the number which is here. So it has brought it just down to the last person.
Oh, thank you so much. We thank you. Yes, for those who are viewing us on Unity Television, we are bringing you live the case of Mr. Okello Christopher, who was accused of murdering the $40 at Ggaba Development Center. But right now, as I speak, the judge has entered the judgment that he's guilty of all the offenses he committed, and there is no way he will just go scot-free. And right at around 3 we shall get the sentence of the judge after the mitigating factors from the prosecution. Naye wano wakyaliwo abantu abalagala okuwa endowooza zaabwe nnyabo gyebala amanya gero
zo Nanyonga Rachel nazo senga waseri w'omugenzi Seruyange ino Nias.
Ensonga y'omulamuzi engeri yasazeemu omusango guno engeri gye yagutandikamu ogyogerako ki nga gwe senga w'omugenzi Seruyange?
Ensonga mpola abantu bamanyimuko olumu ku mateeka amatono tukikwata mpola naye kibaduma yasigala kiruma naye at least kale kuba twali tusuubira wajja kubawo okwekubira oludda bagambe nti si yeye bikimbu olwokuba tewali cameras naye twebaza Katonda nti at least obujulizi obuzze omulamuzi abukkiriza era n'omusango ne gumuteekebwako ekyo ati kitukakkanyizamuko sinzirayo twali tulowooza.
Gwe senga w'omugenzi olaba mulamuzi yandiwadde kibonerezo ki ku bulumi obubali ku
tukulunze ndi mukyala amanyi Katonda kati sisala musango naye Katonda yakola okwagalako.
Nyabo oyo ye mama w'omwana omu ku bamama abaana abattibwa mu kifo kino naye nga tutayongera okuwa abantu ab'enjawulo nga batuwa endowooza zaabwe ku ngeri ki gye balabamu entambula y'omusango guno. Mami, ensambuza y'omusango guno ogirabye otya n'okutuuka omulamuzi okutuwa ensala n'agamba nti mukulu Christopher alina omusango era omusango yagusa tandika namanya go
Nabbanja Edith mbeera Ggaba. Omulamuzi abadde mutuufu nnyo era asingisizza Okello emisango naye tulinda ekinaddirira tulabe ekibonerezo ki kye bagenda omuwa. Ffe tubadde tugamba ng'abantu b'Eggaba nti baanimuwadde ekibonerezo ekyokumutta kubanga bangi abagenda eruzira ne babajjayo ne badduka ne bagenda ate ne badda ne bakola revenge endala. Tubadde tusaba omulamuzi oba Pulezidenti Yoweri Museveni omusajja oyo bamuteeke wali ku ssaawa ya Queen afe bufi okusinga omuteeka eruzira batwerabiza emyezi nga 6 mwaka n'avaayo ne bamuta byebyo ebyange.
Waliyo amateeka agali mu ssemateeka y'eggwanga agagamba nti omuntu tateekeddwa kuttibwa era ne Bayibuli egamba omuntu tateekeddwa kuttibwa gw'owaki.
Waliwo ekiyitirira ng'omwami oyo Okero yatugumbula abaana abatayina misango awo tetulina kye tumugamba wadde eddakiika 2 wabula ffe kye twagala afe bufi.
Anke ensonga oyo taata wa mwana abantu abamu abafiirwa abaana baabwe kizibu nnyo okubasanga nga balina ekigambo kye basobola okwogera kubanga obulumi bw'amaanyi. Nnyabo gyebaleko
kale bambe naawe gyebaleko
kale
oyogera ki ku nsala n'okulindirira ekibonerezo kya
omulamuzi akirambuludde bulungi mbu Okero ebikola byonna bye yakola abaana bonna yabasala akigenderedde era twetegereza yasala bonna ng'abasala ku bulago era engeri yakikola akigenderedde. Twagala tusaba kooti esetinge pulezidenti basalire Okero ekibonerezo ng'omuntu yenna anaazanyiranga ku mwana akimanya ali mu kuzanyira ku bulamu bwe kubanga omwana omuto tasobola kwedifendinga. So ekyo kye tulinze era tukkiriza omulamuzi agenda kusalako ekintu ekituufu.
Okuleeta kooti mu bantu nga wano bwe tuli kyo kyogerako
ekyo kyo kirungi lwakuba walimu abantu abamu abatamanyi kooti nga bwetambula. Kooti ewummulamu nolaba abantu beekalakasa babuuka naye kyetaaga esiga eddamuzi yeyongere nnyo kusensitizinga abantu bamanye kooti nga bwetambula. Omuntu aleke kujja wano mu kooti ajoba zaatamidde atandike kubuukabuuka ayogera byatategeera ajja kugenda mu eri closed court. Abantu babasibe bayongere kuyigiriza abantu bamanye proceedings za kooti nga bwetambulamu.
Omulabi wa Star TV Omunyonyo y'Eggwanga wamu ne UBC ezo ze nsonga zetusobola ssaawa 9 omulamuzi Alisco Muhanji Kawuka akomawo okutuwa ekibonerezo nga enjuyi zombi zimaze okuwaayo ensonga zaazo nga oludda oluvunaanwa lujja bba lusaba kooti omuvunaanwa oba olwawo bamuwa ekibonerezo ekisaamusaamu ate oludda oluwaabi lwo kimanyikiddwa nti terujja kusaba kibonerezo kisaamusaamu olw'ekikola mukulu Okero Christopher Kiyakola. For those ones who are watching us on UBC TV and others who are on other platforms who are watching us, what I can tell you that was all with the judgment from Judge Alisco Muhanji Kawuka, and at exactly 9 we are going to come back, at exactly 2 we are going to come back so that the judge can give the sentence for the accused, and before giving the sentence they will have to go through the mitigating factors from the prosecution, and obviously still they will play for that deterrent sentence from the court, and even for the defense they will pray for the lenient sentence, obviously because that is their client. With all that said, I'm here with a big team with the Jatindi and the Katurebe to give you whatever is unveiling at Ggaba Early Childhood Development Center, where there is a mobile court for the trial of Mr. Okero Christopher Onyum. I thank you.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. Tonight we focus on the protection of the sovereignty bill that is before Parliament. On the 15th of February, the 15th of this month, it was put before plenary. The first reading happened, but tomorrow and Friday, the second reading and the third reading are proposed to be happening on the floor of Parliament. But now it is at the committees, both the Legal Committee and the Defence Committee. What is really sovereign about this bill? Who is it protecting? Very many questions, very few answers. Tomorrow we'll have many organizations or institutions going before the committee to explain where their stand is. The bankers have written, various sections in Lango have also gone ahead to express their concerns about this bill. But also, there's already Article 1. What's the difference between this and the sovereignty bill that is before Parliament? Let's get context with the guests that I have in studio. On my immediate left, Job Kija, who is a governance expert, is with us this evening. On his maiden appearance here with us. Good evening, Job, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, and happy to be here at UBC for the first time on the TV. I've been several times on the radio.
Thank you. The Honorable... The Honorable Sarah Pendi, the woman representative for Toro District, is with us this evening. Good evening, Honorable. It's good to have you.
Good evening to you and good evening, viewers. A pleasure being here.
The Honorable Nathan Nandala Mafabi, representing the people of Budandiri West, also a former presidential candidate, is with us this evening. Good evening, Honorable. It's good to have you.
You have forgotten the chairman of Joshua Cooperative Union.
But you didn't bring us coffee today.
Because you don't buy. Good evening, viewers, and happy to be here today after a long time.
Next is the Honorable Chairman Norbert Mao, Cabinet Minister in charge of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Member of Parliament elect for Laro Peche, and also vying for the speakership for the 12th Parliament. Good evening, sir, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, viewers. It's a pleasure returning here after a very long time.
That's very true. Lastly but not least, the Honorable Minister in charge of ICT and National Guidance, also representing the people of Kinkizi West in Kanungu.
I thought
Kanungu.
Kinkizi East. I told you the easiest way is to know that the wise men came from the East.
He's also with us this evening. Good evening, Honorable Minister, and it's good to have you.
Thank you very much, Timothy. Good evening, viewers. Good evening, fellow panelists. I am happy to be back here on Behind the Headlines.
This bill, for context, has raised a lot of concerns. But to just give you context, it has agents of foreigners and foreigners. It has funding in there. But also, the biggest part is regulation and registration. Those are the main areas that we'll be touching to look at. It is 5 parts, 30 clauses, and a lot said in there. But very many questions on what should be happening. Let me give you what will be happening tomorrow in the committee. In the committee tomorrow, it's expected that the Minister of Internal Affairs will be there. The Attorney General will also be there. But the presentations will be made by the Uganda Bankers Association, Uganda Human Rights Commission. The Honorable Yusuf Nsibambi will be there. Ms. Sarah Birete will be there. The Forum for Women Democracy will also be there to make their presentations. The question is, we've seen bills pass in 3-6 days to become acts. Can this happen to this one? Especially the Parliament, the 11th Parliament, will be concluding business next week. Will it see the day of light, or will it move to the 12th Parliament? Let me start with the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, there are two ministers here. So Dr. Bariamunsi, let me start with you. This bill, what are you trying to cure?
Okay, let me give you the context that builds up to what we are curing. Africa was colonized, in the case of Uganda, for about 68 years, close to 70 years. And with the exception of Ethiopia, the rest of Africa was colonized. there was a struggle for independence which resulted in pushing away the colonial masters, the Europeans. Of course, there are other parts of the world which were colonized. So, and then we regained independence. And I am deliberately using the word regained because we had independence before. We were occupied by these masters, then they went back. But when they went unwillingly. One leg went back to their countries, another leg remained here. So they still wanted to influence what happens in Africa. Even when you look at the political architecture in Africa, especially when you look at fragile states in Central and West Africa, you still see the colonial hand hovering over countries, at times sponsoring coup d'etats and disruption in those countries. If I can give you an example, I come from Kanungu, which borders DRC. If you are familiar with the story of DRC, DRC was colonized by Belgians, and it is estimated that the Belgian king killed up to 15 million Congolese, and many of them, their hands were cut. It was a cruel kind of administration. On June 30th, 1960, they regained independence as DRC. Interestingly, they make a program on Independence Day and they exclude the executive Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba, who, after being provoked, he gets a microphone by force and says, "The history and the future of Congo shall henceforth be written by the Congolese themselves." What do the Belgians working with the Americans do? They basically plan to have him killed, 6 killed. Whom did they work with? Colonel Mobutu Sese Seko, who had been a PA to Lumumba, but Lumumba had made him the army chief of staff, and then they used him to kill him, who later on also chased the president Joseph Kasavubu and became a president, stayed there for long, and since that messy situation, Congo has never died. I am giving this that even when the colonial masters left, they never left, they still wanted to hang over us and direct the affairs in African countries. If you examine the politics today and the goings on in our countries, you still see that hand from foreigners wanting to trample over us and direct affairs and direct things happening in our countries. So what does this law, what is it about? You asked about Article 1 of the Constitution, which says power and authority belongs to the citizens, the people. And this power and the people will exercise this sovereignty through their will and consent. In other words, the affairs of Uganda must be directed by Ugandans themselves. Now, to give effect to this provision of the Constitution, there is a need for domestic legislation. So this law, the protection of sovereignty bill, basically answers to Article 1 of the Constitution. And if I can read for you the long title of the bill, because the bill usually has a short title and a long title. The long title reads, now the short title is the Protection of Sovereignty Bill, but the long title, which usually brings out the objects or the objectives of the bill, that this is an act to provide for the protection of the sovereignty of the people of Uganda. Sovereignty basically remains to that power that people should have to determine for themselves, for self-determination, to be dependent and to do what they want without foreign interference. That's basically what sovereignty is. So the first object is to provide for the protection of the sovereignty of the people of Uganda. Then to designate the department responsible for peace and security as the responsible entity for the registration and regulation of agents of foreigners. Because it is basically talk about foreigners or their agents influencing issues in Uganda against the interest of Ugandans. So a department is being created in the Ministry of Internal Affairs to handle that registration of foreigners and their agents, and also to provide for the protection of the sovereignty of Uganda. Then to provide for the registration of agents of foreigners. The bill introduces agents of foreigners or people who work on behalf of the foreigners, and foreigners are also defined in this bill. Then also to regulate the funding and any other assistance to agents of foreigners and for related matters. So this is the long title of the bill. So in a nutshell, this bill is providing for regulation of foreigners trying to interfere with affairs, internal affairs of Uganda by way of disrupting governance, by way of funding activities which are against the interest of Ugandans and other related matters. So the question is, should the sovereignty of Ugandans be protected? In my view, the answer is yes.
You're still not answering what you're curing.
No,
because the question is specific.
Yes.
What are you curing with this bill? Because everything you've said,
yes,
almost you say something, then you almost don't say it, because you're talking about Article 1, which says power belongs to the people who shall exercise their sovereignty in accordance with this constitution. Yes. Already this is covered. Why do we need a bill? You're talking about Congo, yes, but Belgians.
You operationalize provisions of the constitution through municipal legislation. This is now a law to operationalize that Article 1.
Why don't you strengthen the institutions that are already there? Why are you creating a whole law to be able to expound on something that is already covered? Because as executive, you have powers given to you by the public.
Yes.
So really, what are you curing?
So you can as well say we have a comprehensive constitution. Why don't we just work with the constitution without parliament enacting laws?
No, I'm actually saying,
yes,
why don't we strengthen what we already have by enacting new laws?
What do you lose by enacting a law? Because strengthening institutions, yes, is good, but that may not bring out sufficient provisions. Like here we are saying, a foreigner may want to send funds to destabilize a country. And we are saying there must be specific provision in the law to regulate that. We are not saying don't send money, but if you send money beyond a certain threshold, then there should be some institution to say, look, this money is for what? And then it gets clearance.
Dr. Chris,
so
Bank of Uganda has a report that shows 60% of the remittances that come from outside come through mobile money. That's one. Two, it tells exactly where the money is coming from and where it is going. So why are you duplicating processes that are already in place by creating a new law?
There is a Chinese who said it doesn't matter whether the cat is white or black, provided it catches the mice. There is nothing you lose by supplementing existing laws to make the legislative framework stronger. because Bacha's Bank of Uganda, yes, there's a law which establishes Bank of Uganda, but it doesn't have sufficient provisions to close some of these gaps, like the funding which may be offensive that comes through different channels. There are lacunae that are being cured through provision of these specific sections of the law, and it does no harm. What do Ugandans lose if we strengthen that regulatory function in that area?
Let me come to Chairman Mao. Chairman, when you look at this suggested bill, many corners, especially as far as even Lango, raising concerns about this, the bankers raising concerns about aspects within here. When you looked at this bill, what do you feel is the spirit behind it? What's the spirit behind it?
Let me first thank you and the UBC and all the media for giving all citizens an opportunity to debate the bill. The legislation has its origin. Cabinet has tabled this bill. It's a proposal. Now it is in the hands of Parliament, and I'm very pleased that uncharacteristically the Parliament has opened up this bill to the public so that they hold what is called hearings.
Yes.
Now people with opinions will go to Parliament and make an input. That in itself is an exercise of the sovereignty of the people. We recently had an election, which is the main exercise of sovereignty actually. So in exercise of their sovereign powers, the people elected those who should manage the Ugandan state. That is an exercise of sovereignty of the people, the one you are talking about in Article 1. Now when the Parliament debates and passes the bill, it will go to the President. The President will then assent to it.
Yes.
If he agrees with what Parliament has done, because by the time the bill goes to the President, it may not be in the current shape. It is presumed that it will be influenced by the opinions of those who are going before the committee. Now when the bill becomes law, it can still be tested in the courts of law. You have seen cases where Parliament has passed laws, the President has assented to those laws, and then the courts simply throw out the laws and say no, they do not pass the test. So these debates are healthy. Let's start from there, that this is a very, very healthy debate. To those who are not lawyers and those who are concerned citizens about what they consider extremes of this law, let me put the central question at the heart of this bill. How and to what extent may a democratic society protect itself against the inappropriate and manipulative influence of foreign actors? Inappropriate and manipulative. Inappropriate means it is not acceptable. You see, in human relations we have what they call indecent gestures. I can shake the Honorable Sarah Opendi's hand, that is appropriate. If I touch her breasts, that's inappropriate. Now that is what the Ugandan state or any state would say. Well, there are things you should not touch, there are areas you should not touch. So the debate should be about whether in the bill we are protecting those areas, or we are even denying anybody waving to the Honorable Sarah Upendi and say, no, you can't wave to me. That's inappropriate. That is what the debate should be. And then manipulative means I go to the Honorable Sarah Upendi and I say, do you know that Honorable Nandala is a witch? And suddenly the Honorable Nandala realizes that the Honorable Sarah Upendi is no longer free with him. Even when he tries to extend his hand, she's moving away very fast because I have manipulated her through misinformation.
Traffic jam holds everyone, but Gigi never holds me. I shop anywhere.
Why stress offline? Buy, sell, use. Gigi.
Your uncle wants you to get a loan. He says you should buy a Beamer to stop embarrassing him in front of his friends with your malnourished car. That you should buy one of those expensive shirts they call Versace, so that people stop spreading rumors that his family has no style. That you need an iPhone because he's tired of biting his tongue whenever he tries to pronounce that funny thing you're holding. Good thing you've got ABSA. Our loans are not designed for others to change what they say about you. They are designed to support your growth. Visit absa.co.ug for personal loans that help where it matters. ABSA, your story matters.
Now, in the era of technology, it's the duty of a state to do that. That's why you hear that some countries don't allow TikTok, for instance. Some countries, in Dubai, you cannot make a WhatsApp call, whereas in Uganda you can. In some countries, no Facebook. So the goal of any law that seeks to protect the sovereignty of a society is to push back against manipulative and inappropriate actions of foreign actors. Now, the foreign actors can exert their influence through Ugandans, whether individual Ugandans or corporate entities, organizations, and so on. So the debate should rather be, if it is our intention to be a democratic society, then nothing in the protection of sovereignty bill should offend democracy. After all, our constitution is explicit. It says we must only do those things that are acceptable and demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. The critics of the bill are saying there are aspects of the bill that will make Uganda a society which is not free and not democratic. Now, that's a question of evidence and a question of argument. Fortunately, this is something which is being done in other parts of the world. There are countries that are subtle in protecting their sovereignty. Somehow, Uganda, we are a country that believes that what you see is what you should get. So while other countries don't have an anti-homosexuality law, but they arrest homosexuals, imprison them, and torture them quietly, for us, we go to our parliament and say, anti-homosexuality law, and everybody is all over us like a rash. There are those who protect their sovereignty by basically spying on you. They may not even have any tough law, but if you are doing anything in their country, you notice that there is a lot of state presence all over you. Unlike in Uganda, which many visitors say our country is really, really free. Now, those who believe that certain provisions on this law will undermine, or certain provisions of this law offend our commitment to building a democratic and free society, have now got the opportunity to prove that. I'm glad that many actors are dealing with the various aspects. The banks are dealing with the aspects of the banks. And of course, you yourself, you have brought in the main issue of saying, well, do you need to create another state structure? Especially since we are doing rationalization. We are on a weight loss program as a government. So if we are committed to a weight loss program, we can achieve the objectives without necessarily creating additional layers and layers. But we have to admit that these threats that the Honorable Chris Baryomunsi has said are real. These threats are real. Unfortunately, in the world today, debates are driven by fear. These are the kind of debates that informed discussions on vaccines. When vaccines came, everybody was saying, no, we don't need them. Even corona is fake news, and so on and so forth. I want to insist that these threats are real, but as we defend ourselves against these threats, we should not undermine our commitment to building a free and democratic society, and having an additional layer, especially in this age of information, where computers and internet capabilities are weaponized to even undermine elections. In a way, it is like you asked Honorable Chris Baryomunsi that you already have a wall fence. Why do you need burglar proof? Now, the Honorable Chris Baryomunsi said, well, the wall fence is okay, but to sleep more comfortably, I think I need burglar proof also. Now, the burglar proofing should not be to such an extent that you basically burglar proof every aspect, so that even if you need to rush to the toilet, you take so many minutes to go through so many doors. Now, that is what the debate should be about. So, lastly, the Honorable Chris Baryomunsi gave the context. Every state in Africa is grappling with two issues. Number one is what we call the national question. Uganda was not created by Ugandans. Actually, Uganda is not a sovereign concept. It is not the Bakiga and the Acholi and the Bagisu who drew the border. That in itself is the first evidence that our sovereignty has been under attack. Now, the national question means we must find a formula to live together harmoniously as Ugandans. So as we deal with the national question, we could face manipulation. For instance, you do remember that as we were making the 1962 constitution, the independence constitution, the British decided to take sides. They exerted undue influence on the kingdom of Buganda. They undermined the government that was led by Benedicto Kiwanuka. They manipulated the issues, for instance, of the so-called lost counties of Bunyoro, which led to disputes that eventually dismantled the very constitution we had built, because they decided to unduly influence people who were negotiating with other Ugandans. And then you ended up with districts like Acholi, Kigezi, Bugisu, territory of Busoga, kingdoms of Toro, Bunyoro, Buganda, and Ankole. Now that manipulative influence has still got scars up to today. It has even affected land. They came here and imposed this Milo land through the 1900 agreement. Now those are examples of manipulative influences. The second issue that African countries grapple with is decolonization. Now, to what extent is the Protection of Sovereignty Bill an act that supports our decolonization project? In other words, to say, if we are going to make mistakes, we must make them ourselves. We don't let somebody else make our mistakes for us. In fact, they are still all over us. When as a young member of parliament, we did go to Ministry of Finance and we found a unit there called the deregulation unit, headed by a white man, permanently seated in the Ministry of Finance. He heads the whole unit, and his job is to ensure that foreigners are free to do as they wish in Uganda. So let us not debate this bill without tackling the fundamentals, how we deal with the national question and how we continue the decolonization project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me come to the Honorable Nandala Mafavi. You being an accountant, also looking at bankers also showing up tomorrow to be able to have a hearing of what their thoughts are. Most of the banks here being foreign influenced or foreign funded there. Is this a national independence question, or is this about to isolate our economy and our diplomatic means here as a country?
You're sinking. You feel the pressure, the unknown. It's closing in. You try to stay strong, but the worries of the future feel like they're pulling you under. Life seems chaotic and out of control. In the storms of life, where do you turn? In times of uncertainty, there is one that will carry you through. He is an anchor of hope and peace. That anchor is Jesus, God's Son, who died on the cross for you. He took our burdens upon himself, then rose from the dead to offer eternal life to anyone who asks forgiveness and trusts in him. When things feel unstable, you don't have to drift through the unknown alone. Let Jesus be the anchor that holds you steady. Click to connect with an online volunteer to learn more about starting a relationship with Jesus.
Colleagues whom have come to meet here again after a long time. Unfortunately, we are debating with people of this is an election. Now he's standing for speaker. He can't make a mistake in his debate, otherwise we'll have a problem. Mariambusi, I call him Mariambusi because when he came to my place, they could not pronounce his name. But my brother Chris is also planning to become a minister. So all the debate they are going to do is to say in favor of the law, of the bill, because they fear that if they say the contrary, they will not be there. But if you are seeing how they are talking, you saw Mao went this way, he came out with nothing. You saw now your great brother Chris, who is very brave. You see also repeated Congo where he came to nothing. What are we looking about?
Executive, and we are members.
Exactly, you would have said it was positioned by the executive, that is it, but if the population is raising issues, we are ready to listen. And that's what you have said, but you are bringing those examples. But let me start with the laws we have. First of all, we have anti-money laundering law. Very clear. It talks about money. We have the Political Organizations Act, which says that to fund a party, maximum is 400 million. We have the Anti-Terrorism Act, which is very clear about terrorism, anything to do with terrorism. We have the Constitution, which talks about the people of Uganda. The NGO Act. Now, for me, to see what they are saying, I think they are running mad. I told you people during the election, this is coming after election. Why? If you look at, let me start with the country itself. We make budgets every year. Are they implemented? Now that they are not being implemented, Ugandans are not asking a question. This budget which is ending this year, all the money was taken to an election. That's why you saw money in the villages running up and down. No roads done, yet they win the budget. No schools done. So now they are worried that the population will raise against them. So what they are trying to do is to force the population to accept that the government is right. I don't know what they are fearing. Election ended. Why are you following people after election? This law is intended to fight people who are political actors, nothing else. And they are saying either Loop got money out, VP got money. By the way, when I want to talk about Loop, the political organization, Mao here, my brother, is the current chair of IPOD. They wait and sat under the law. It says every election year, all political parties will be given money equally. Was it done? It wasn't. But there was a political party which had money, which was splashing everywhere now and then. Mao has never asked a question because he's the chairman of what? IPOD. He keeps quiet. Now, people in these elections, they go, some people can vote without money. Of course, there are those who want money to vote. I will give an example, like those who voted opposition leaders. There was PDM money, but they refused. But others feared, they were fearing PDM, they had to vote as they wanted. So, in my view, I said this country, after every election, when you see a new law coming, there's a problem. Of course, also longevity is very bad. President Museveni has been around. There are intelligence people in every village. They are called the VISOs, GISOs, PISOs, and whatever. Intelligence in the country is there. If anything took place, it will be known. No money can come in this country without the knowledge of Bank of Uganda. It comes through the what? The system. So they can hold the money whether there's right or wrong. You see, the people who are here against this country are Ugandans themselves who are here. I will give an example. URA should be looking for taxes from everybody. Recently, there is a woman called Nyamea, is it Haja somewhere? She gave her son, who is 5 years, a vehicle for 250 million. Now, I went and asked URA, show us the tax return. Which I want to know now is to ask Mwezi, when he was socializing him. And show us your tax return. He had a copy. He discovered Mwezi had no tax return. He said this man was a problem. He's here, he knows. That's why I'm saying the problem, the debate we're having, people are after something. Otherwise, these are right people would have debated well this law. So, the woman has never paid taxes, but she has an income to spend over 250 million. That's a person where you would be investigating and say, where did you get the money? In fact, the president of Uganda would have acted already on that one, because there must be some money in the house. How did she get money of that magnitude? I have tried also to walk around how she paid the car. I'm yet to get results. Now, so those aside some people of that nature, there are people who have, of course, you have had currently in Uganda. People say we don't have money, but the money in circulation is too much. The problem because the money is in people's what? Houses. If the money, there's a lot of money out there, but very few people have it in the houses, in the handling it. The rest is hanging. So there's money and which is they are not doing work. And because it's not doing work, it is causing us problems. Now, how do those people, they would love such a law to come in so that they are protected? So,
and let's stick to what you said. You've said it is weaponized for especially parties or political activists that are involved in this. But also, don't you see a need for government to do this, because foreign people have interests and their interests come before. So if these funds are being given for their foreign interests, don't you think it is necessary to have a bill like this to be able to safeguard the country against their interests?
But you have the NGO bill, if we are talking of NGO. And you see, again, we're making a mistake. Is Uganda really having its own resources to run the economy? No. They go to World Bank, IMF, there are so many people coming in, there's more money to bring here. There are also, if you are talking about this law, it should be also saying that Uganda government should not also go out there to look for it, for money. Two, we have also protocols which are, agreements which have been, you already know Maputo, it's called the Maputo Protocol Agreement. What is it called? The one of agriculture said that every government in Africa should have 10% of its budget.
15
for no 10, no, the percent is 10 or 15 for agriculture. Yeah, 15. That's what I was saying. 10 is for agriculture, 15 is for health. Are we doing it? So those are the things which we should be doing to handle that. So that means if we're not doing 10 agriculture, 15 health, then it means we're still behind, and we shall always depend on those foreigners for resources. That's why you see that our deficit is too high, our debt is in the sky. But now you are coming to bring a law to regulate even the small little money which is coming in from these KO people. People go to Dubai to work to remit money here, go to UK, they remit, and by the way, do you know how much the remittance is about, I think, $1.2 to $1.5 billion. And if that money is stopped to come here, first of all, the economy will be in crisis, because that's the money which has been helping to curb the foreign exchange costs. You know, when money comes in, the cost of the money, our dollar is stronger. And if there's no money, our Uganda shilling is stronger.
Okay.
If there's no, let's just give it. But you see, you give them more time. You see, the problem is, that's why I don't want to come to these things. For the two, they talked for 36 minutes. After talking for about 5 minutes, you want me to stop. Is that fair? I don't want to come to debate. Well, you wanted me to meander also. No. So I'm not ready to meander. I am explaining to you that what we are doing in this law is we are also still depending on foreigners as a government. Now, the money, if you stop the money to come in of the KO people, because now everybody, now even your brother, sister in Dubai or where, is a foreigner. And you see, we're making a conflict, because even the laws here, they define who is a foreigner, who is a resident, who is a non-resident. Now, if this money doesn't come in, we are going to lose over, I think, 5 to 6 trillion shillings, which would have come in the economy to buff us. And if you look at what it does, that one, it creates jobs. When that money comes in, it creates jobs. It comes for health sector, maybe some of the, whereby the government has failed to do, it goes in health sector, it goes in agriculture. And even when it comes in our village, for me, let me give an example. Somebody sent money to another man, he got his money, 100,000, he goes and drinks beer. Now, the man who sells beer will get income. The one who produces the beer will also produce, so that it creates jobs. So the moment you stay for this, we're in a problem. And that's why I'm asking government that the earlier you remove this bill, the better, because you have other laws which can monitor money in this country. If you want money, if you don't know how to use it, do it. AI. I am happy now is talking about technology. You know AI? I hope everybody knows the AI.
Yes.
AI is doing a great job. Nowadays, I can tell you what is happening every minute. You see, I have some people who are disturbing us on the land of BCU in Napanga there. I want to give a practical example to this land which was got in the 50s, and it came from this scheme. So you put in AI. The Bujisu Cooperative Union have land here. It will bring that it got this land like this, And I was telling the court, why are you disturbing us? AI is telling us that this is the land we have, even our accounts are showing that that is our land. So if it can bring something of 1900, why can't you use it here to monitor Forex? Maybe you're telling us Bank of Uganda, the people you have there cannot do work. Or you're telling us the people in police cannot work. The URA cannot monitor. Unless you're telling us. So you cannot create organizations day in, day out. They are too expensive for nothing and you're fearing for nothing. So me, I'm saying these are fears which can be dealt with, and the current laws can manage this. And if you are trying to say it is politics, then there's one alternative. Say there will be no elections in Uganda. Enjoy it until you die. It can also work. If you are fearing people who are contesting every minute, then tell them that for us this districts here are ours. These are not yours. This one we can allow. Also do it like you did in the last election. So me, Chris, I want to beg you. You're a very intelligent man. Go back to cabinet and say this is the law. Could be a problem. We have already laws. Now you're a lawyer. Do the same. Article 1 of our constitution is very clear. What is it? Power belongs to the people. Now you want to withdraw it and it becomes a government. So the moment you see people bringing laws to regulate a country, that means they are failure. That is dictatorship. If you are saying you are Democrat, why do you bring such laws so that they help you to rule a country?
Thank you. We come to Honorable Sarah Pendi. There are too many, the conversation or the wording within this bill leaves a lot of room. A Ugandan residing abroad is a foreigner. So is the Ugandan there for 2 weeks, 1 week, 6 months, 1 year? There's also where it says an agent of a foreigner is a person who acts on the orders, request, control, or under the direction of the foreigner. Why is there so much ambiguity in this law, leaving room for whoever is trying to implement it to decide how it is working?
First, allow me to appreciate this bill. And the reason for appreciating this bill, despite those other details that you're raising, is because as we speak now as African legislators, we are working on an African charter on family, sovereignty and values. And this African charter has arisen out of the past 3 conferences that we have been holding in this country, where, as you are very much aware, Africa was now the focus of most of these people who felt that they must come and bring their values, redefining the family values to the Africans. You remember the campaign that had even gotten into our schools. Campaigns where teachers were now being used as agents to actually teach our children values that were not our values as Africans. And that, of course, culminated into the Anti-Homosexuality Act. So arising out of this conference, we felt it is high time as Africans that we came up with a charter to clearly define what a family unit is in the African context.
A deal is a deal, but this one is bigger. Enjoy up to 50% off on AliExpress with your Airtel Money Global Pay card. Spend $100 and get $50 off. Spend $50 and get $20 off. Even at $15, you get $5 off. The more you shop, the more you save. Discounts are valid for a limited time only. Activate, load, transact now. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Protect our values as African people, but also sovereignty. And when we talk about sovereignty, we are looking at, the health sovereignty. Countries must come up with their own solutions, funding for healthcare. Because you realize that much of the funding that was coming to the country had conditions. And of course we had even to lose certain support because of, enacting a law to protect our Ugandan children. We are looking at education sovereignty. We are looking at food security and food sovereignty. At the end of the day, we are also aware that today our indigenous seeds are slowly disappearing. And at some point we shall find that we are dependent on somebody for seeds to plant. And that is dangerous for the African population. So for me, looking at the protection of sovereignty bill, although it does not wholly touch on our African charter, which we are actually working on now, but this is, to me, a step. And I've had so many people, of course, raising concerns, including what you have just raised now. I also looked at it. For example, a foreigner includes the Ugandan citizens residing outside Uganda. These can be improved, and that's why the bill is in Parliament. And when you go further, it says a foreigner includes any person, institution, or body that the minister may by statutory instrument declare to be a foreigner. This clause, the way it is very dangerous. Because I may be Honorable Mao's opponent, and he's the Minister for Internal Affairs. And he has authority if the bill is passed in this current form. He can declare me a foreigner. So, despite that, for me, I believe that Parliament will do its best to improve this bill. And also maybe ask, of course, receiving the various views from the various stakeholders, make amendments accordingly. It will just not be the way it is.
You mentioned education sovereignty, health sovereignty.
Yes.
But also the Honorable Nandala Mafabi spoke about agriculture 10%, health 15%. We are not adequately funding these social services. So how do we talk about sovereignty with these services that we cannot adequately service to ensure that all Ugandans are getting these services?
Yeah, but now once this bill is passed, then we have to get back to the drawing board to ensure that we have funding for these sectors. You are aware that Uganda as a country, we don't have a national health insurance scheme, for example. But that is one area that would help us fund our health sector. Because currently, as we speak, much as we talk about free healthcare services, the healthcare services in this country are not wholly free. Well, you may go and see a doctor, but you will end up buying the medicine. So there is some out-of-pocket expenditure from the Ugandans. And sometimes you are even told to provide the money within the health facility where you have gone, the government health facility. Bring the money, we shall buy the medicine. And they pick the same medicine. But when you have a health insurance scheme, you would be dealing away with all these things. And that has been my cry. When Parliament passed the health insurance scheme, actually it was the 10th Parliament. Unfortunately, it was not assented to by the President. I was sad because, to me, I saw us moving backwards. But I hope that now, in the 12th Parliament, this is something that should be considered, so that you can't talk about sovereignty. And of course, when you look further, the bill talks about sovereignty in the social services sector as well. So if you're looking at sovereignty, you must look at your independence in and authority in managing your own affairs. So we must find the money to provide healthcare services to our citizens, which I believe can be done. We must find money to also deal with the education sector, fund the education sector wholly, and stop dependence on the foreign agents or foreign donors that we are now actually trying to deal with under this bill. And I strongly believe that that can be done. If you look at the amount of money spent on corrupt, people swindling government resources, talking of 10 trillion shillings, how much would that do in the health sector? Quite a lot. 10 trillion shillings, part of it would go into funding, the education sector, so that we can have quality education services to our population. So we must deal with corruption, but we must now tighten our belts and find local funding to fund these sectors. Otherwise, you can't talk about sovereignty, protecting our sovereignty as a people, and then you are heavily dependent on, foreign funding for these key sectors.
Thank you very much. Job, the Honorable Mao mentioned inappropriate, manipulative. The Honorable Nandala Mafabi mentioned, weaponizing this, especially for political actors or political parties. But he also mentioned different laws that are there to be able to safeguard these areas. Who are we creating this bill for? What is the intention behind it when you read it? But also, is the spirit behind it for Ugandans or for the safety of the government?
So, first of all, I think at this point I want to thank this government for introducing this bad bill, because for once we have seen the whole country, the whole citizenry mobilized and responding to a legislative process. This is the first time that you see all Ugandans across the board, from Karamoja to Lango to Acholi to Ankole to Bunyoro to Toro, in the diaspora, everywhere, across all different sectors, the medical, the teachers, cultural, bankers. It's actually the first time that you really have unison in terms of engaging on a parliamentary process. And I think this bill has really helped Ugandans realize that there's need for a functional parliament, and now they're engaging with this process. But out of this response that we are seeing from the citizenry, there's one unanimous message. If you've been following on the social media, if you've been following on the other media platforms, Ugandans have actually rejected this bill. Actually, what we are seeing from across the board, Ugandans are saying, don't touch this thing, because this thing is so bad, it is evil, the spirit behind it is really... in fact, the first time when I read this bill, when it was leaked, I kept hoping that when the final bill is tabled in Parliament, the text will actually be different from what we are seeing. But for those of us that did the analysis then, we actually, when you look at it, there's just a bit of changes in terms of the numbering of the clauses, but the text is exactly the same. And at first when I saw it, I wondered whether the person that actually drafted this bill has ever stepped in law school. Because first of all, it is very poorly drafted. Number two, about 50% of this bill is unconstitutional. It contravenes the Constitution. Majority of the things they are trying to bring in here, like Honorable Nandala has elucidated, are already dealt with in other laws. So this is really more like what you'd be calling over-regulation, but also multiple regulation. So when you look at the spirit behind this bill, I kept wondering, but really, first of all, did the person who wrote this bill, are they Ugandan? Do they hate Ugandans so much that they can put in this bill clauses that are clearly anti-Ugandan? That you can put a clause that designates a Ugandan because of going to another country as a foreigner, and the people they are relating with back home as foreign agents. It's really, and I think that is the one thing that has spurred the entire country against this bill. When you listen to the ministers, just like you've listened to Honorable Barrio Munsi and even Honorable Mao, these are very intelligent people. So when I looked at this bill for the first time, and I realized that it had gone through cabinet, it had been cleared by the caucus, the Attorney General is owning it, the minister is owning it. So I wondered really, how can a bill that looks like this go through all this clearance and it comes even before Parliament and it is still looking like this? You need to make the work of Parliament easier, because this bill actually, if you know, the other time we were talking to members of Parliament, a few of them that had actually cleared this bill in caucus, and before we even looked at it, they said, you know, if you were to save anything in this bill, what is it that you would save? And we told them, okay, let us go clause by clause, and at the end of this bill you tell us what to save. And we went from clause 1 to clause 30, because there are 30 clauses. And at the end of the day, one of the MPs said actually we were played, because we were never given the opportunity to discuss this thing in caucus. We didn't know that this is what it means. And in that regard, we would actually throw away the entire thing because it is too bad. Okay? So if you look at cabinet, executive, I think it also needs to be making the work of Parliament easier, because now Parliament has to go into the whole process of rewriting this bill. In fact, if I had the authority, I would be saying, Parliament, just throw it out. And I think this is what Ugandans across the board are actually saying. The ministers are talking about countries where this law is, and I've had some of them actually say it. Which countries do they talk about? They're talking about USA, Canada, UK, because we are a Commonwealth country. They talk about Australia. On the contrary, when you look at this bill and you compare it to those laws of those countries they are talking about, this is the total opposite of the laws in those countries, because the laws there actually empower their citizens. They are protecting citizen sovereignty. What does this bill do? It actually subjugates citizen sovereignty. It takes away the sovereignty from the citizenry and hands it over to a few individuals within the executive. Now, when you do a mapping of other laws that are similar to this law, you'll actually realize that there's one common denominator among them. These are all countries that you describe as autocracies. Which countries are they? And it's very interesting that these ministers, when they are talking about the countries which I think they want to make us believe that they benchmarked, they don't talk about these bad countries which have a law that looks like this. Which countries are those? Russia, Nicaragua, Georgia, Hungary. Hungary, if you look at the EU, it has actually been isolated because of having this bad law. The only country that has this law in nature of this bill on the African continent is Zimbabwe. And you know what's happening in Zimbabwe. If you look at, there are about 10 countries which have a law like this: Azerbaijan, North Korea, all these are autocracies. These are dictatorships. What has happened in these countries? The relationship between citizens and the state or the government in these countries is one of servant-master relationship. It is not where a citizen is really valued as a citizen, where power indeed belongs to that citizen. Number two, in majority of these contexts, these countries, as soon as this law was passed, independent civil society was closed. In fact, in one of the countries, I think it is Nicaragua, over 1,000 NGOs were closed at passing of this law. Independent media was decimated. The state seized property of civil society, research institutions, universities, etc. People have left and have gone into exile. Those are the contexts we are looking at that have laws similar to this. Now, even with all those bad things happening in those countries, if you get Uganda's law, the proposed law, and you juxtapose it against these other countries that have those bad laws, Uganda's law is actually the worst of all those bad countries that I have talked about.
What makes it the worst?
It is the worst because it is the only law that proposes stripping a citizen of their citizenship just because of going and staying in another country. Because according to this law, a foreigner is defined as a Ugandan staying outside Uganda. It doesn't even say whether you've stayed there for 30 years or for 1 hour or 2 hours. Effectively, by this law as is at the moment, if I just boarded a plane right now and went to Kenya, I would actually automatically become a foreigner. That is what this law is saying. It is the only law like that. It gives the minister, like Honorable Saro Pendi stated, the power to determine who is a foreigner at any one time. That if Honorable Mao becomes the Minister of Internal Affairs and then I come off not looking so good to him, he can actually declare me a foreigner. It has a number of very poorly drafted clauses. It has clause 3 to 4, which talk about the administration. It sets up an administrative department, the Department for Peace and Security.
Under the Ministry of
Internal Affairs. It doesn't describe the composition of that department, or even the qualifications of individuals. I mean, Honorable Mao, who is a lawyer, knows legislative drafting. He will actually tell you that is poor legislative drafting. Clause 14, registration. An agent of a foreigner must register with the Minister of Internal Affairs. Okay? Now, in order for that agent to be registered, they will look at 3 considerations. Number 1 is your health status. Now, it doesn't define what they are looking for in terms of health. Do they want to know whether you are HIV positive? Do you have Ebola? Do you have cholera? What exactly are they saying? Number 2 is your mental capacity. Okay? And how do you determine somebody's mental capacity? Number 3 is character. Okay? So the minister will look at me and say, for you, a person of good character, I am going to register you. But the minister can also say, for you, a person of bad character, I can't register you. Now, on top of that, you are supposed to apply for permits every 2 years, which permit can be revoked at any one time. What does that mean? That incumbent on the conditions that I gave, if today Minister Mao, who is the Minister of Internal Affairs, gives me a permit to act as an agent of a foreigner, after 3 months he can actually, maybe meet him somewhere even on social media and I abuse him. And then he can say, are you, Job, you're now a person of bad character. I am revoking your permit.
Okay.
That's what this bill provides. This bill, let me say just one final thing. This bill is not about NGOs like it has been crafted. Okay? Because the lie that was told actually to a number of these people that cleared it in caucus is that this is an NGO funding bill. And you can see they've smuggled in so many things. But if you read this bill, it touches kadamas that are doing this clerical work in the Middle East. It is touching the medical professionals. It is touching bankers. It is touching the telecoms. It is touching, you know, if I am considering that as someone who has gone into the Middle East to work as a labor, as a whatever. I call it slave trade, I'm sorry. But you know, this is a policy, a government policy, labor export. Okay? The government through the Ministry of Gender has signed an MOU with a number of these countries to provide labor. Now, after sending these people there, through labor export, they are then declared foreigners. If that kadama is to send back money to her mother for medical care, the mother must first of all register as a foreign agent to receive that kind of care, and must get a permit every 2 years to get that kind of care. So this law really is just touching everywhere. It is a wide net that has been cast, in that if you to throw it in an ocean, it is going to catch a shark, it will catch mukene, it will catch Nile perch, it will catch, it's not, it will bring these snails. It is not clear what actually this law is trying to cure. That's why you see it is so all over the place, going into anti-money laundering. It is going into the work that is supposed to be done by the Uganda Communications Commission. It is going into the work that should be done by the NGO Bureau. It is going into the work that should be done by the security. It is creating so many administrative layers, regulatory layers, which are unnecessary. Okay. I think really what needs to be done, if I had the authority, is to get this thing and throw it away and tell the people that are bringing it, you go to these different laws that you are trying to bring into this law and strengthen them such that they are able to deal with the issues that you want to deal with.
Thank you. Let me read some feedback that has come through here. Good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the show. My question goes to the Honorable Chris. He talked about external funding for dubious or terrorism activities. What does the Financial Intelligence Authority do? It's already covered. Secondly, there have been cases of such circumstances, and the courts of law have been able to provide enough law to charge culprits like that. This is Sam from Gayaza. Thank you, Sam. Someone else goes on and says, good evening, Timothy. Thank you for the show. This is a critical discussion, especially for us in the diaspora and the economic role. As a citizen, I commend the initiative to safeguard Uganda's sovereignty in an increasing complex global environment. Given that the diaspora brings in 2.5 billion annually and the professional engagements are centered to Uganda's economy, how will the bill clearly ring-fence bona fide diaspora activities such as remittances, investment, technical advisory for the different areas and classify them as foreign influence? Economic balance and policy is needed. I commend the protection here, but we need to balance it. The operationalization of this is distinguished between foreign interference and legitimate economic cooperation, such as foreign direct investment. This needs to be sorted. Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be breaking down some few issues in there that need clarity on this bill.
When you don't use Momo, you get insulted by strangers. Save yourself from insults. Use the Momo app or dial *165*3# to pay and enjoy zero charges below 5K. That's the power of Momo.
It's back, bigger and with more business opportunities. It's the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo Poate 2026, Uganda's flagship tourism event. Poate 2026 will take place from the 21st to the 23rd of May 2026 at the Speak Resort Convention Center, Munyonyo, under the theme Wanderlust. It's your time to thrive. Yes, it's your time to tap into Uganda's renewed optimism and tourism growth. Tourism stakeholders, travel trade partners, and tourism enthusiasts will be part of the Poate 2026. Come and network with like-minded people and unlock new business opportunities. To participate, register at www.poate.co.ug. Poate 2026 is brought to you by Uganda Tourism Board and partners.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of the roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project. That answers somebody's question.
For the past 20 weeks, the front bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice and commerce.
When you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers, you bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport. If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Now airing every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Welcome back from the quick break there. My name is Timothy Nyangoso. In the studio, I'm joined by Job, Honorable Sarah Pendi, Honorable Nandala Mafabi, Chairman Norbert Mao. I'm also joined by the Honorable Dr. Chris Baryomusi. We're discussing the sovereignty bill, especially the details in there when you look at the part that talks about protecting the sovereignty of Ugandans, and also spreads all over to leave a few areas that are questionable there. And that's where our conversation is. How can we improve it? Because the spirit could be right, but the letter is having a problem. How do we improve that to safeguard Ugandans moving forward? You can be part of the show. Go to our YouTube channel, drop your comment there. All the numbers 0709 60 25 92 for text or WhatsApp. Let's get into this conversation. Honorable Chris, this bill, as it stipulates, there's a lot of work for the Minister of Internal Affairs. What competencies are required? Because if, forgive us for naming the Honorable Chairman Mao as the Minister of Internal Affairs, but what competencies are required for someone who can be able to judge character, judge health, and all the requirements that are in here?
No, the bill provides for establishment of a department, and within the government framework, we know what a department is. It has a head, commonly it's a commissioner, and then the other technical staff. And of course, government departments work with other departments in the entire government. For instance, are you saying currently we can't measure the character of an individual? Haven't you heard of the police department, where you get a certificate of good standing and so forth? Are you saying we can't assess mental health of a person? We have mental health experts. So when you have a department of government, it works in consultation and partnership with other departments of government. It doesn't mean that the mental health expert has to be deployed in the department. So the department will be manned, and I am surprised. The lawyer there once said as if we should put in the law that the department will have a cleaner, will have a driver for vehicles. Once you make a department in the law, then the rest is administrative, how you feel it. There will be an administrative structure for that department that has technical staff to do this work. But the